The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition or give any medical or legal advice.
Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Michael W. Hall, the Paranormal Lawyer.
Yes, he is. Thank you very much for that awesome introduction. I love it every time I do the show, the Paranormal Lawyer. And thank you for tuning in tonight, folks. This is just wonderful. All of my night dreamer buddies out there from different places around the world, literally, are joining us in the droves, thousands upon thousands of our Night Dreams Talk Radio listeners in, the Eastern Bloc countries, even in Western Europe and UK and Australia. We even got a whole contingent of truck drivers, long-haul truck drivers out there that I like to call the paranormal truckers, because these guys are out there on all the blue lines across America, getting everything that needs to be got to where it's supposed to go. And, boy, are they out there keeping their eyes open for strange and anomalous activity in the middle of the night, including, UFOs and all sorts of creatures, cryptid and otherwise, let alone, those hitchhiking ghosts that you see on the side of the road. Those things are fascinating tales that our trucker buddies have out there. So thank you for joining us, you guys. Okay, well, we are back tonight. Tonight is January 19th, 2019. Can you imagine that the entire month of the first month of 2019 is almost, it's over half over, and there's some amazing things going on. Matter of fact, we have, as we usually do here whenever we can, Peter Davenport on the line, and he is going to tell us a little bit about maybe whatever updates are happening in the UFO sighting reports that come into the National UFO Reporting Center. So, welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Michael. It's always nice to be here. Enjoyed your intro and enjoyed your comment about truckers. I was just thinking about how blessed we people who study ufology are by at least four categories of people. Truckers who are out at night and looking at the night sky, smokers who more often than not are now smoking outdoors, hot tub aficionados, and dog owners. We've gotten a slew of reports recently from people who engage in those respective activities. they're a blessing to ufology. But it's nice to be back, and looking forward to sharing some of the recent reports with our audience tonight.
Well, that's great. Is there, that's kind of interesting that you mentioned that about the kinds of people that are out there at night, that are able to report some of these strange and anomalous sightings. But do these sightings abate during the wintertime when the weather is cold and maybe people are not out as much? Or, of course, the truckers and the smokers, let alone some of the hot tubbers, are still doing their thing out there in the wintertime, too.
Yeah. Out here in eastern Washington, a lot of hot tubbers. It gets pretty nippy at night. But people have asked me that. Are there any times during the year when you can expect more or fewer UFO reports? And just a casual scan of the data on our website would seem to indicate, in my opinion, that UFOs are being sighted all times of day or night during all times of year. There doesn't seem to be a high point one way or the other, or a low point one way or the other.
Very interesting.
It suggests to me that this is a real phenomenon, and I'm surprised that so few people, relatively speaking, are interested in it. Because if it's in fact is taking place, it is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other people, probably the most important scientific question that has ever confronted mankind. Namely, are we alone or are we not? And from my vantage point, and that's what brings me to this program tonight, from my vantage point, the clear answer to that question is we are not alone. And it appears to me that we're being visited on a routine basis.
Well, and that is very interesting, that statistic that you mentioned, that the time of the year doesn't seem to correlate with UFO sightings, which would indicate to me that indeed that phenomena is a constant thing, and people are seeing it no matter what time of year, what kind of conditions. They are still reporting them to the National UFO Reporting Center.
Yeah. And there are a lot of variables in ufology, but one of the things we note is slightly more sightings are reported for nighttime conditions than for daytime conditions. And of course, it's not too hard to figure out why that might be the case, because oftentimes, not always, but often, these objects have bright lights on them, and bright lights would be more easily seen and more readily detected during dark hours. So
yes.
I frequently get queries from people who want a copy of our database, as if I'm just going to download our database to their computer, which isn't going to happen, of course. But they want to do statistical analysis on our data with regard to location of sighting, time of sighting, all sorts of statistics or meristic qualities they want to look at. But it appears to, I agree with your statement, there's no hot spot that can be detected, or no hot spots, and there's no particularly fertile time of day or night when these things are most apt to be seen. And that, in my opinion, supports the notion that it really is taking place.
Yeah, and that thing that you mentioned about the lights in the night sky, I mean, that is just iconic, and pretty much how a lot of these sightings start out. The old truck driver or the family wagon is going down the road sometime at night, and they see this strange light that they don't recognize that starts the whole sighting report. So
we've received a lot of those reports recently. So one particular phenomenon I'd like to discuss tonight has to do with green lights. This is a phenomenon that I've seen now for about 6 or 8 weeks. The first such report comes from Galveston, Texas, the 4th of December, and I may have briefly alluded to this case on Night Dreams Talk Radio in past weeks, but this was the one that sort of kicked it off and at least caused me to sit up and start taking notice of this type of report. But 4 witnesses at 8:54 p.m. on the 4th of December were outside looking at the night sky on Galveston Island, and they saw a bright green egg-shaped light that suddenly, it had been hovering, it suddenly shot down, and from their vantage point it appeared to go directly into the water without slowing. And when you have 4 witnesses, it causes a person to sit up and take notice. The next similar sighting comes from up in my neck of the woods, Chewelah, Washington, which is sort of north-northwest of Spokane, probably by about 30 miles or so. And an observer writes, this is a male witness, that he was outside in Chewelah, Washington, again on the 14th of December. I think that was a Thursday. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he was driving home from work, and suddenly he saw a big bluish-green sphere lit up the entire sky from his vantage point. And it suddenly accelerated and disappeared at a velocity that he found to be just astounding. He said in his report, and these reports can be read on our website, by the way, ufocenter.com. He said he's never seen an object move as fast as this object moved from a dead stop. So,
can you imagine a bluish-green sphere lighting up the entire night sky? Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And then traveling faster than he's ever seen anything travel before. Now, I've often wondered. I've never seen this myself, but I have heard of these stories where people say, I was watching this glowing object in the night sky, and all of a sudden it took off, and it disappeared so fast over the horizon that I could not believe how quickly it went. Now, they're not telling us that they just blinked out and were gone, turned the light off, or went to a different dimension or whatever. They're saying they traveled so quick that they could not even comprehend almost how fast it went. And, the physics behind that has got to be astounding to think how anybody inside a craft like that could survive those kinds of G-forces.
Not only astounding, but I suspect that our government and many other major governments of major countries have been working hard for the last at least 70 years trying to unravel that type of technology, trying to discover it for our own purposes. It's clear. People often ask me, well, Peter, how long are you going to continue collecting these reports? And indeed, there's a certain merit to their question, because we're going through the same hoops and over the same hurdles over and over again in collecting these reports. But somebody out there must be working on unraveling the technology that allows these things to happen.
Yes.
And I suspect ever since July of 1947, so that's coming up on 72 years this July, our government and other governments have recognized that the UFO phenomenon is real. And if these objects are able to travel between stars or through empty space, they must have a command of technology that, relative to our technology, must be light years ahead of them.
Yeah.
Light years ahead of ours.
And
consequently, that would be a technology that our governments would want to have access to.
Yes, and let alone that report that you just told us about tonight of a craft or an object going into the water. If these things have the capability of traveling through intergalactic space and then our airspace, and even under the water, that is fascinating. I can't imagine